The Philippine government does not want you to know about the truth behind the Marcos gold. For centuries, the Philippines has been a land of mystery and intrigue. The story of the Marcos gold is not just a tale of wealth, but one of power, deception, and a legacy that still echoes through the halls of history. But how did this treasure come to be? And what really lies behind the legend? Ferdinand Marcos, the 10th president of the Philippines, had many faces. The charming and ambitious politician, the decorated war hero, the cunning strategist. But there was another side to Marcos, a side driven by an obsession with gold and power. This obsession led him to an extraordinary treasure hunt that spanned decades and crossed the boundaries of war, politics, and greed. Marcos' rise to power, his controversial rule, and the mysteries Marcos' gold are all intricately connected. The story begins during World War II, when the Philippines, under American rule, was invaded by Japan. The Japanese were on a mission to take control of Southeast Asia, plundering everything in their path. As they advanced, they looted priceless treasures, gold, jewels, art, and cultural artifacts from countries they had conquered, including China, Indonesia, and the Philippines. General Tomoyuki Yamashita, the commander of Japanese forces in the Philippines, was given the task of overseeing the treasure. As Japan began to lose the war, Yamashita and his forces started moving enormous amounts of wealth, precious stones, and artwork into hidden locations across the Philippine Islands. These hidden treasures became known as the Yamashita treasure. Some say the treasure was so vast it could fill entire rooms. Yamashita's men were tasked with creating elaborate hideouts, tunnels, caves, and underground vaults. Some of the treasures were said to be buried under mountains, others hidden in remote islands or submerged in underwater vaults. But the exact locations were known only to a few, and when the war ended, the treasure seemingly disappeared, leaving only rumors and whispers behind. As the war drew to a close in 1945, American forces liberated the Philippines. General Yamashita was captured and brought to trial. However, the vast treasure he supposedly hid was never found. The Japanese forces were in retreat, and with them went the secret locations of the treasure. Some believed it was lost forever, while others claimed that Yamashita himself took the knowledge of the locations to his grave. Rumors spread across the Philippines. Stories of treasure hunters and locals searching for the lost gold, but none could claim to have found it. The Yamashita treasure became a legend, a tantalizing mystery that would remain unsolved for decades. Ferdinand Marcos was a man of ambition from an early age. Born in 1917, he grew up in a small village in the Philippines, eventually attending law school and later becoming a soldier during World War II. Marcos was not just a soldier, he was driven by a desire to rise to the top, to gain power, wealth, and influence. After the war, he quickly entered politics, becoming a rising star in the Philippines. By 1965, he reached the pinnacle of his political career when he was elected president of the Philippines. His campaign was built on promises of a better future for the Filipino people. But behind these promises was a hunger for power that would eventually lead him to search for something far more valuable than political success: the hidden gold of Yamashita. In the early 1970s, rumors began to circulate that Marcos had started a secret quest to find Yamashita's treasure. He was not only interested in the gold as a means of personal wealth, but also as a way to secure his rule over the Philippines. By this time, his government was embroiled in scandals, and Marcos needed a way to strengthen his position. Marcos enlisted the help of foreign experts, geologists, and military officers, and even treasure hunters to assist him in the search for the legendary gold. Some believe he used his influence to force local officials to cooperate with the treasure hunts. Others claim he tapped into underground network of treasure hunters already active in the Philippines. As the years went by, the search for the gold became an obsession. Marcos was said to have used his military and political power to locate the treasure's hidden vaults, whether through underground tunnels or ancient caves. Marcos and his men allegedly found and recovered large amounts of gold, but this treasure was not shared with the Filipino people. Instead, it was hidden away in vaults, shipped abroad, or stashed in secret locations. In 1970s and 1980s, Marcos began to build his immense wealth. Some of this wealth is believed came directly from the Yamashita treasure. The Marcos family began living a life of luxury with mansions, art collections, and a lifestyle that many could not even dream of. But while the people of the Philippines suffered, the Marcos family grew richer and more secretive. In 1972, facing growing opposition and unrest, Marcos declared martial law. He claimed it was necessary to preserve peace and order in the nation. But many believe that the true reason for martial law was to consolidate his power and protect the hidden treasures. While Marcos focused on securing his power, his wife, Imelda, became infamous for her lavish lifestyle. The Marcos family was known for their extreme wealth, and yet as they lived in excess, the Filipino people were trapped in poverty. Many began to wonder where this wealth came from. Was it just the result of political graft, or was there something darker at play? In 1986, after years of corruption and growing discontent, Ferdinand Marcos was ousted in the People Power Revolution. His regime fell, but the mystery of the Marcos gold remained. After Marcos's exile, the Philippine government began investigating his wealth. Some gold was recovered from his properties, but much of the treasure remains unaccounted for. After Marcos' exile, the Philippine government began investigating his wealth. Treasure hunters and experts from around the world have come to the Philippines searching for any trace of the Yamashita gold. Now let's explore the various theories about the Marcos gold. One of the most persistent theories surrounding the Marcos gold is that much of it was indeed hidden in the Philippines, concealed deep within its dense jungles, beneath mountains, or inside caves that are nearly impossible to access. This theory suggests that Ferdinand Marcos and his associate used his power and military resources to locate and hoard the Yamashita treasure, keeping it secret from the Filipino people and even from the government after Marcos' exile. One theory suggests that Marcos created elaborate vaults in the country, many of which are said to still be undiscovered. Some treasure hunters claim to have found pieces of gold buried in remote areas like the mountains of Luzon and the island of Mindanao. One historian accounts there are certain areas in the Philippines that have long been rumored to hold the treasure, especially in the northern and central parts of Luzon. In fact, some local communities have passed down stories for generations about strange men with military connections who came through their villages searching for something hidden beneath the earth. It's possible that Marcos and his team took great care in securing and hiding the gold across multiple sites, so that even if one was found, the others would remain secret. Another theory suggests that the Marcos gold was never truly hidden in the Philippines at all. Instead, Marcos may have successfully moved much of the treasure out of the country before his fall from power. This theory points to the possibility that the Marcos family stored vast sums of wealth in foreign banks or smuggled gold in offshore accounts, especially to countries like Switzerland, America, and Hong Kong. Some experts believe that Marcos' wealth was far too extensive to be concealed within the Philippines alone. In fact, following Marcos' exile, investigations revealed millions of dollars stashed away in foreign accounts, but very little gold was recovered. The Marcoses were known to have stored huge amounts of their wealth overseas. If any gold had been moved out of the country, it could have been done through shell companies or hidden accounts that were never traced back to them. The question is whether Marcos took the entire gold hoard with him or left some behind. What we know for certain is that he had the resources to keep it hidden on a global scale. Many conspiracy theories suggest that Imelda Marcos, who was known for her extravagant shopping sprees, may have used her international connections to move gold abroad. Some believe that when Marcos fled to Hawaii, he took the majority of the treasure with him. In 1986, shortly after his exile, Swiss banks froze accounts linked to the Marcos family, containing hundreds of millions of dollars. But where was the gold? Why wasn't it found? This theory suggests that Marcos' gold was never truly in the hands of the Marcos family or even the Philippine government. Instead, it suggests that Marcos' closest associates, including military officers, business allies, and perhaps even family members, took the gold for themselves. Marcos surrounded himself with a loyal but increasingly corrupt inner circle. As his grip on power began to falter in the 1980s, some insiders began to take advantage of the situation. These individuals could have easily seized the gold while Marcos was distracted by the mounting political pressure. There were many individuals close to Marcos who had the means and the opportunity to move huge sums of wealth, including gold. It is possible that some of these individuals moved the gold overseas, using their connections in the military and international business to secure it abroad. The wealth may have been distributed among those who remain loyal to Marcos, or used to fund their own future plans. But whether the gold was taken out of the country or kept hidden within the Philippines remains a topic of much debate. Another theory claims that the Marcos gold was already gone before the Marcos ousting in 1986. This theory suggests that Marcos and his family may have already moved or sold off much of the treasure by the time they were forced into exile, leaving behind only a small portion of it to be found by the government. As the news of the People Power Revolution spread, Marcos and his wife Imelda quickly fled the Philippines. In the final days of Marcos' rule, the gold was likely already gone. He had built up an extensive network to launder and move assets abroad. It's possible that he had already liquidated or transported much of the treasure, and what remained was either not as valuable or easily accessible. The fact that no substantial hoard was found when he was ousted suggests that the treasure may have already been dispersed. And then there are those who believe that the Marcos gold is still out there, buried beneath the Philippine soil. The story of the Marcos gold is far from over. Whether or not the gold was ever fully recovered, or if it still lies beneath the Philippine Islands, the legacy of this treasure continues to haunt the Philippines. One thing is certain: the treasure has become a symbol of the greed, power, and secrecy that marked Ferdinand Marcos' rule. The gold may be gone, but the questions it raised about his regime remain.